We're going to move to the sense of smell. Now, smell is one thing that elders will have. Almost anyone who's over the age of 40 still believes that you lose your sense of smell. A lot of people think that it's inevitable, and there are problems with the sense of smell as you get older, but it is not tied to losing your sense of smell. We talk in our class, The Aging Mind, about how back in the 50s there was a scientific paper saying you lose 1% of your sense of smell every year you're alive. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It never did, but it stayed in the literature, and it still may be in people's mind that it's a downhill decline. But if you're 99, if that was true and you're 99, you better sniff the rest of the year, because at age 100, boom, you got no sense of smell. What happens often is that you aren't challenging your olfactory to smell. And we explain that before we get into scent aerobics, because we want the mindset of the elders to be one in which they're actually working for a purpose, and that is so that they can smell that cup of coffee the rest of their life, or they can smell that soup, or they can smell something on the grill that they're going to eat, and not be overcome with that, oh, I can't smell anything, or my taste buds are shot. So what we did was to come up with something that was a guessing game. It was a guessing game based upon 3 different fragrances that people could connect with. Here's what we did. We took empty little jelly jars, and these are the actual ones I pulled out of storage and brought for this taping. What we did was to use men's aftershave or ladies' perfume and cologne that were classics. And we told them ahead of time, in each bottle labeled A, B, and C is either a man's aftershave or a woman's perfume. And they are classics that were very popular. So we then passed it around, and they had a piece of paper to make notes. The first time around, they were to guess, men's or ladies. Easy, because it's almost a true false, one or the other. The guesses would invariably be wrong or right on an, or they couldn't tell which one. They could put a question mark. The second round was where we really had some fun. That was, could anyone guess what the fragrance was? Rarely did they guess exactly unless they were the ones wearing it, and often I sensed that from the beginning. Or the one time that a woman smelled it with that second question in mind, what is that aftershave or perfume? She smelled it and her eyes lit up and she said, it's my Uncle Bob. That was a talking point that everybody loved. And what happened after that second round, we then announced which was which. Lots of discussion about how the nose, once it knows what it's after, has a better chance. We did the same thing with mystery, so that we didn't tell them what was there. But the answer, we would then, let me back up a bit. And this is important, Michael, who's with us on this segment. Michael, one of the things we did at the end was to verify not just using one of the senses, which is the olfactory, but we said as we went through, and in the first bottle A, so look at your sheet, you might have guessed that it was a men's cologne, because I told you A is a men's cologne, but I didn't tell you which kind. A is, and you hold up the jar, you hold this up because the shape of an Old Spice itself brings back memories. And this is the one that was Uncle Bob's favorite. He smelled like it, that's what it was. That brought back the memories. But by having the actual bottle there, that helped. Then I would hold up White Shoulders. Again, the color, the shape of the little spray bottle for a cologne or a perfume, that brought back discussions that if they didn't wear it, it might be a relative or somebody they knew. And then finally, we had Aqua Velva. The blue liquid also brought back memories. So Michael, if we're going to do that and apply that technique of layering, first have success at the first level, then the second, with the sense of smell, the purpose was to have an education of how the brain worked. How do you see it?
Well, part of what you taught me is that you taught me how to smell, first of all. And I think your point, going back to people think that their sense of smell is lost as they get older. You taught me to sniff gently rather than just sort of inhale, because the molecules need to actually get into the nose before they can be turned into signals and get back into the brain to where your brain can actually compute what's going on. So just learning how to smell is one of the techniques that's very important. The second point is that your sense of smell and your sense of taste are very much connected. So it's another thing that people say as they get older, my sense of taste is going, I can't taste anything. Part of that is because you're not smelling the foods. So there are parts of your brain that compute, what you're smelling. There are parts of your brain that compute what are you tasting and so on. The more you exercise them and actually hone in on them, the more you pay attention and work that area, it's like a muscle. It will get stronger. You will be able to do a better job of it. The third quick point that I want to make is that all of our senses, but smell in particular, is very closely connected to our emotional centers. And we can really think of our emotions as part of our cognitive functioning, because emotions are very important. They help us make decisions and choose what's right, what's wrong, what we actually like. Going through your sense of smell, another thing that you might want to do is think, what sort of emotions does this bring up, and what does it evoke for you? So those are the three quick points I had.
Well, and let me build off of all those points. Part of what we did was to learn, as soon as we really labeled this a memory aerobics using the 5 senses and started learning just enough about the brain to be explaining to them how the brain worked, we then got a very basic brain map. And those students who are taking this course will have that as a download, the original map that we used. We found, Michael, that once you had someone understand how the brain looked and then talk about where the different parts of the brain interacted as they were doing an event, whether it's eye aerobics, touch aerobics, or in this segment, scent aerobics, they are able to imagine that when they sniff, they are sniffing to get the odorants not to their lungs this way, but instead to the roof of their nose this way. And by going to the roof of the nose, the neurons that are touching the outside world at the roof of the nose, those are actually encoding the odorants and sending them on their way to be examined. And the memory maker, the hippocampus, is right next to where the olfactory goes. And that's why this is the one emotion-provoking part of the brain that is being explored as the triggering event. That's why we survived when we smell something and act before we realize what it is, whether it's smoke or whether it's something that's a foul odor. We act based on the smell before we really analyze. That's where your point of emotion being involved is terrific, because we can use plants, and I hope some of the students will be doing some horticultural activity design and use a plant like lavender or like lilacs to provoke a memory of grandma's front yard, or a memory of something, or if a person is doing culinary work, we use the scent to prime the taste factors. So you're right on point. The other is the learning how to smell. We didn't realize until after we started our clinical trials that what we were doing is teaching people to do one of the senses for a reason, and that is the purpose of doing this is so you can increase your sense of taste at every dinner. You're able to smell the things. I guess live long enough and you'll be able to smell the roses when you're 110 if you keep that part of your brain active. And our guessing games are part of the mix of having people guess what that smell is, tell them after they've guessed, and then next week or two introduce that same smell and say, can you remember that? Failure's not really they don't have to guess what it was correctly, but they have to get those, oh yeah, now I remember, as the neuroplasticity works its way through. Michael, any feedback on that?
Well, it strikes me one of our major reverse engineering points is to make it special. And that's really what you're doing with all of the senses, is honing in on one particular sense at a time and making it special, making people really pay attention to the overall sense, but breaking it down into its component parts. And that's one of the ways of helping people to flourish, because then you can really sort of enjoy the simple things about life by getting into them, and finding the beauty in things that we tend to take for granted. That brings meaning and joy into your life, and that's a very important goal we have.
That's excellent. And let me end by pointing out that that joy in life can be the smidgens we talk about. And in the Aging Mind class, I'll just review it very quickly, that when somebody can learn how to smell, sniff, and learn how the brain works, and you have to give it time to really identify how rich that smell is, it improves their sense of taste. And then they can get up for the rest of their life and smell that cup of coffee or tea in the morning and do what we just demonstrated. Sniff 3 times, shut your eyes, and savor that one moment. And once somebody learns how to do that, we find they never forget how to do it. And it's something that's cost-free. And it's something that empowers somebody to have those joys that they might not have if their olfactory is simply out of shape.